Does it say record anywhere?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Okay. So, Danielle, welcome. And this program is called Polluted, and it's designed to go along with tell your own story. I don't know. Are you doing that?
The media journey.
So it's kind of designed to go along with that, and it's in a story format. And I am going to actually be reading the story to you, and then we'll be looking at pictures that go along the way. Now, it is interactive, and so you guys are going to actually be doing things in this story too. But most importantly, I'm going to be presenting different scenarios, different pollution issues. I'm sure many of them you've heard of before, and kind of putting them from a Girl Scout's point of view. And what I want you to be thinking while we're going through all this is, if you had to create a public service announcement to present towards the public. Have you guys created this before? Not yet. Okay. Well, today you're going to create a public service announcement at the end of this presentation. And we would like you to try to use one of the pollution topics that we bring up here in this story right now. Now, you might think of another one, and that's fine too. But as we're going along, I just want you to kind of be thinking about, that would be a good PSA, or, maybe we could do this with that one. So kind of in the back of your mind, be thinking about that, okay? Okie dokie. And so, of course, as you're getting older, and so you are the leaders now. And so this is really cool that you ladies are interested in doing this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand out some little canisters with stuff in it. And so when you'll look at it, and it's like this one represents litter, this represents effect from boats. And so there's 12 of these, so some of you will be, 3 of you will be doing 2. Or unless you'd like to do 1, 2, would you like to? Okay. So when it comes to your turn, I'll have you come up. This lovely, can you all see this okay? Or is that down too low? Let's see. We can probably reach it from up here. Let's put it up here. So this is our lovely clean ocean right now. And you see how beautiful and clean it is? And so, is that in the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you hear your particular item you talked about, then I'll tell you when to come up and go ahead and dump it into the ocean. So we'll see this kind of graphic, physical effect of the stuff we're talking about, a little visual to go with it. Okay? Okay. Let me open up the ocean. And I'm going to go ahead and pass these 2 back to the 2 ladies there. And some more here. Just don't open it, please.
Yeah,
No, really,
not yet.
Who wants to do 2? We have somebody who really wants to. Yeah, a lot of people. Okay. All right. So 2. You do 2. Okay. Okay, that's right. I got all of them. Okie dokie. So here we go. Just so guys just kind of follow along. Just so you know, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you each a copy of this. And there are more details on each one of these topics in here than what we're going to talk about. So if you're thinking that, okay, I wanted to do that one, but I don't have that many ideas, don't worry, there's more ideas on the paper copy you'll get at the end of the presentation, okay? All right. Put you on, put our stuff in there. I know, we just put new batteries in the test tube. Here we go. Before modern civilization, called the California coast home, it was already home to Native Americans. It was also home to land and sea animals, such as deer and mountains and bears and pelicans and dolphins and whales and sea otters and seals and sea lions. The vast and beautiful shoreline was covered with cactus and wildflowers, oak and redwood trees, and sagebrush and scrub pines, with plenty of fresh, clean air and crystal clear water. See the little tide pool crustaceans there? And fish and coral reefs thrived in this pristine, fertile ocean. Okay? Just like the water here. All the creatures, great and small, flourished along the unspoiled California coast. Can you imagine how beautiful it was back then? Yeah. Without modern man and all the houses and the business and the traffic. It'd be nice to swim in this water, wouldn't it? Yeah. Has anybody ever gone to the local tide pools? And of course, you all know that we never disturb or take anything out of the pools. And you know that at many of those pools there are docents there that are either volunteered or paid at most of our, like in Laguna Beach type of areas. So if you see someone that doesn't seem to know the proper etiquette around tide pools, look for somebody standing around official and let them know. And they can talk to the people that, because we have lots of visitors from all over the United States. And they don't know sometimes. So, you know, we assume that we are all kind of ambassadors or advocates for the ocean and for the health of it. So, you know, you see something going wrong, and maybe with your parents' help, if you feel that, like you could talk to them gently about how important it is not to disturb that stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put some of these ocean animals we were talking about into the ocean. So here we have a lovely little seal. I think this is supposed to be an elephant seal pup right here. And here we have, and they're not proportionate in size, okay, a type of dolphin. And, oh, there's one of our sea lions. Watch out, here comes a lemon shark in there. And here we have a beautiful dolphin. And then, of course, we have sea turtles and a little fur seal and a starfish clinging to the rocks there in the tide pool. And there's a little octopus that's squirming around down there. So just some of the creatures these represent that we're talking about in this story. Okay? Now, eventually modern civilization moved from east to west, making California their new home. The new settlers cut down trees to pave roads. They erected bridges to cross rivers and bulldozed mountaintops. The original Girl Scout group, isn't that cool? They carved out the earth and built neighborhoods and stores and businesses all up and down the beautiful California coast. Between the erosion from all the new construction and the natural man-made forest fires, the once pristine terrain went through many, many changes. When the Santa Ana winds would blow, then the rains came down, the soil and debris would wash away into the storm drains and into the surrounding rivers, which would travel down into the bay and eventually wash into the ocean, the very ocean that is the home to our marine life. The dolphins and the sea lions and all the marine life became curious about the new neighbors who were now sharing their coastal home. Life became much louder, and there were a lot of new thunderous noises which scared the animals. Additionally, the waters became dirtier and muddier and harder to see through. As the human neighborhoods grew along the coast, so did the growing amount of human marine trash. So in this original part of the story, this beginning part, you know, what are some of the effects we're talking about here? So we're talking about animals injured by poisonous toxins. And again, as we go through all of this, we always want to emphasize, we don't think that anybody really intends this to happen. It's just a result of different things that men do and don't quite realize the type of dangers that they're causing yet. So for the most part, we're not talking about any bad guys here. We're just talking about lack of education and a need to better understand the effects of what they do. Some of the poisonous chemicals are like formaldehyde and PVC and polyurethane. It leaches out into the earth and into the ocean. So what can we do? Okay, learn about these toxins, learn about their effects, learn how they work, how they can leach. Different plastics are different, you know, how they can reach out. You might want to join a storm drain stenciling project. Because, you know, the signs wear off after a while, and when you do that, you can be talking to people about it, because people don't realize that those storm drains sometimes, they don't realize that there's no filter to stop that trash. It goes from there straight to the rivers and straight out to the ocean. And so these are just a few ideas. Like I said, there's a lot more ideas if this is a topic that you find interesting. Okay. Next, we're going to get into the topic of littering. One sunny, blistery day, as a car was crossing a coastal bridge, out of the window blew a cluster of papers and plastic food wrappers. Like think it was an accident. It all landed in the ocean down below. Most of the dolphins and the sea lions swam away from the oncoming trash to find a cleaner place to swim. So can you see, does that kind of look like we're confused for a shiny fish under the water? Yeah. But one little sea lion was very hungry, and he mistook some of the plastic trash wrappers as fish and gobbled it up. And days later, I'm afraid that little pup did come to us, and he did pass away. He didn't survive. And I don't know if you've all seen this before. We knew this did, but we saved the contents of Ping's stomach. This was what was actually in his stomach. Yeah, there's like over 7 plastic bags in there. And so also see that ring? That's left over from a balloon. You know, sometimes people like to release balloons for celebrations. And where do they usually wind up? The ocean, yeah. That he wasn't smart for a little sea lion. He was just hungry. But, you know, if you're ever in a situation where you see people wanting to release balloons for a celebration, maybe you could suggest, maybe you could do something else. Let's not do the balloon thing. Maybe we could release bubbles or something, you know, because I know that some of those celebrations have deep meaning to people and setting spirits free and stuff. But I don't think they realize where those balloons wind up. One of our volunteers did a short little run from Catalina back to Long Beach, okay? And he picked up everything he found along the way. In that one straight run, he picked up over 150 balloons in just one straight run. So this is a real, these things are real. We just found out they're real. See them. So, okie dokie. So, who has number 1? Shredded paper, which is going to represent litter. Aha! Come on up. Yeah, would you go ahead and open it up and dump that litter into our beautiful, clean ocean. Okay, there it goes. And you go ahead and put the lid back on and you can just leave it right here, okay? Thank you. Very good. Okay. All right. So again, effects. All right. First of all, this litter and this trash that is going in there is creating the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Have you all heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Especially if you came to the pollution project in 4th and 5th grade. But yeah, so you probably are familiar with this. Of course, the trash is collecting out there in the ocean for many, many years now. And at first they didn't know that it was there, and then they started to realize that there was trash accumulating out there. And it's carried from the land and it's washed from the land out into the water, and the ocean currents are always swirling in the same direction all the time. They're powered by the earth rotating on its axis and different water temperatures and where the land masses are. So it's a constant underwater river. They say that the trash takes about 7 years to get out to the center of the garbage patch. They've studied this garbage patch, and now they know that if you could collect it all together, it would be larger than the state of Texas, almost as big as the United States of America now. So it's a great deal of trash out there. And of course, you guys have already done some work on how to clean this trash up. And when they study it, they've analyzed it, and they realize that 80% of it is trash that originated on land, and 80% of that trash is plastic. And of course, we all know that plastic doesn't biodegrade, right? It just breaks into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces of plastic. And as a result, it's getting ingested and eaten mistakenly by the very smallest animals out there, your zooplankton and your coral. And so it's working its way into the entire food chain now. So this is great that you are so concerned about that topic. So what can we do? Pick up trash. And yeah, that's a biggie. That's not a little league. That's a biggie. Not just on the beach. But to help people understand inland, we need to pick up trash because, like we were saying, once it gets to that storm drain, that's it. You know, I've taken a walk in my neighborhood, and I've walked past a storm drain, and there's nothing there. And by the time I come back, there's plastic cups and things. I think some people think that the storm drain's a trash receptacle, I'm not sure. So it is a constant vigilance and a constant education.
Trash cans right next to it.
Maybe, yeah, but think of, that would be a great idea, but, and also think about how many storm drains there are. So, yeah, but if you see one where there seems to be a lot of collection of trash, that might be a good candidate for you guys to go lobby somebody and say, we need trash cans, or we need to raise money for trash cans for these spots. Absolutely. Okay. And of course, beach cleanups and join conservation organizations. I do have a list of them at the end of this handout for you to look at for some beginning ideas. And of course, reduce, recycle, and reuse. How do you guys reduce? Anybody have any reduce suggestions? Sure.
Well, like, when I go out to eat, normally, like, they have, like, plastic, like, forks and spoons, but, like, when I go, like, Rubio's or, like, an Italian restaurant, then, like, they have the metal things, like, shelf.
But you were referring to many of the fast food restaurants, when you get your takeout food, it has plastic silverware with it. You know, now you can get your own set of reusable silverware. I just say, no thank you, I don't need that plastic silverware. So absolutely. There's lots
Straws,
of...
you can always say, no straw, please.
Yeah, so don't skip the straw, you guys skip the plastic straw. Yes.
Some places have plastic cups, like serve yourself for a soft drink. You don't have to take like the top of the straw or anything.
So you have a choice, don't you? Now, if you're going to get in the car, you might want a lid. But, you know, it's the, I think more than anything, it's the idea of thinking about it, isn't it? And deciding, how many have heard about buying bulk instead of buying convenience packaging? So every time you can buy in bulk rather than convenience packaging, and then use your own reusable containers is another good way to reduce our consumption of plastic. Yeah, very good. All right, next we're going to talk about effects from boats, okay? Now, near another crowded part of the coast, there were some orca whales hunting for food and caring for their young. Suddenly, a huge boom echoed loudly under the water. Noises are amplified and much, much louder under the water, and they travel much farther under the water, too. And it hurt their ears, and it frightened them. They are they depend on sound, oftentimes, just like we just depend on sight. That's how they navigate and talk to each other and communicate. And so the whales could not hear each other to keep their pod together. They surfaced to see what it was when a large cargo ship went past them. As the ship passed, it was leaking oil into the water and left. Now, before I go on with that, I just want to point out this picture here. And if you Google, you will find pictures like this as far as noise effects on different animals and some of the different things out there that are causing these problems. Whether they be surveying for different oil resources or the pipeline vessels or shipping, what they have found is if our cargo ships would just slow down just a little bit, it would reduce the noise dramatically. Not that you can do anything about that right now, but just sort of an awareness that there are changes that people could be making that would help with this serious problem of noise pollution. And there's a lot of research going on right now, especially by NOAA. They're doing a very long-term project right now so that we can get a better idea of how we can help to intervene with this noise pollution.
What about like cruise ships? Did they make something like that?
The thing with cruise ships, very good question, is when they were originally designed, they were not considering the effects of noise pollution. And so now, and I'm not sure how far they've gotten along with this, but one of the things that they're trying to get all the cruise ship companies to do is to mount their engines more effectively so that like they're mounted on pads rather than on the bare steel frame, and that way the noise does not get carried into the water as quickly. One of the rules of thumb though is if you see like whales or dolphins, or slow down, quiet down, especially if you're on your own, speedboats or private boats or things like that. And just an awareness again of the problems it can cause. Many military, when they do sonar, which is a very damaging noise pollution that actually kills the animals sometimes, they are now, many countries are going and finding out where pods of whales are, and before they do their testing and their simulations, and they try to make sure they're in a zone, an area that where they will not affect the whales. So there's a lot going on, but there's, like everything, there's a lot more to learn. So. Okay, so the ship passed by and it was leaking oil into the water and left a large, messy, toxic oil slick covering the water, the ocean. To avoid all of this toxic oil and deafening disruption, the whales abandoned their homes in search of a cleaner and quieter place to live. This is the oil on the beach here. So, who has number 2? Oil pollution. You want to go ahead and add that to our ocean. It's starting to look different, huh? Thank you. All right, so effects, noise pollution, ship strikes, oil and chemical pollution, all causes stress to our animals. What can you do? One way we can reduce the number of cargo ships going back and forth across our ocean is to buy more things locally. And it might not seem like it makes that big a difference initially, but if people are more aware of this, they won't have as much to carry, will they, if you're buying more U.S.-made goods? Yes?
So, like, instead of buying things from China, buy things from, like, USA?
If we can, you know, and again, I know that's not always possible, but it's something to keep, you know, think about. That, and as you grow older and you become decision makers as adults, you know, it's an issue to think about. If the more it helps our economy, and the more that we buy local, will result in less being carried on cargo ships. And if you are going on a whale watching trip, just make sure there are people that follow all of the Federal Marine Mammal Protection Act rules and are not getting too close to animals and not being noisy around them. That's another thing you can do. And so, you know, there are many different issues in many different areas on this topic. Okay, so next we're going to talk about trash on the beach. Further up the coast, there was a group of young girls having a beach party with a picnic and balloons and all. They were celebrating a beautiful California coastal day. The afternoon sea breeze picked up to a bigger wind, and one of their balloons or bags got away. The girls forgot to tie up their trash, and the wind took it and spread it all over the beach. They were able to pick almost everything up except for one plastic bag that flew out into the water, and the ocean currents and the wind carried it on out. Everyone knew the dangers it posed to sea turtles and seabirds and seals and marine mammals, but the waves took it out to sea. It was long gone before the girls could get it. The girls noticed that other beachgoers' trash had blown all about too. So they all agreed to stay and pick up other people's trash before they left for the day, so that the animals would be safer. Okay, so who has number 3? Oops. Here we go. Here comes pieces of trash going into the water and plastic and all different pieces of trash going on. So, effects of trash on the beach. Entanglement and ingestion is one of our big problems with plastic. And of course, once it gets stuck around their bodies, they don't have a way to get it off. And as they grow, it just cuts deeper and deeper into their skin and causes huge scars and eventually strangles them if it's around their neck. So it is a big deal. Kills many animals, and almost all ocean-faring seabirds now have plastic in them, and almost all sea turtles have plastic in them now. And so, what can we do? Again, reduce, recycle, reuse, but for real. And you know, this, I think we're getting good at the reusing and good at recycling. Of course, the idea is the less plastic we have to recycle, the better. But when we can, and you all know about the soft plastic recycle containers at grocery stores. So if you have like all that plastic that comes from Amazon, or plastic bags and things, that you can take them to any soft recycle container at any grocery store. And of course, reducing is the biggie that we're really pushing nowadays, reduce our use of plastic. Use biodegradable products, always have reusable bags with you. Even other stores, not just the grocery store. And now you can start maybe getting reusable bags for the produce department. They sell those online. And so there's lots of ways. And in this early stage, it's kind of exciting because you're not just doing it. You're kind of being the model for other people. And they see that. And, you know, it's a leadership role. And there are so many stores that don't use reusable bags yet. So we've got a long ways that we can go. But just so you know, since California has banned reusable bags in the grocery stores, they are seeing effects already in the ocean. They're seeing there is a reduction in the coastal waters of plastic bags off the California coast here. So, yay, good deal. Okay. Next, we're going to go to fishing gear and debris. As the girls were leaving the beach, they passed a fisherman on the jetty. They noticed him struggling with his fishing line. It was caught on a rock under the water. They stopped to help him, but it was too late. They watched as he cut the line loose from the fish hook, and with the fish hook still attached to it. Sadly, they knew that now there was a chance that a marine mammal would get snagged by that hook and tangled in the line. And this is similar to another problem where commercial fishermen use nets for catching big fish, and then the nets might get loose. And marine mammals are not designed to look for fishing nets and fishing equipment and hooks and fishing line and other things like that. So, who has number 4? So, this is to represent fishing lines and fishing nets and all that fishing gear and fishing debris. Would you want to worry about getting caught in those nets and hooked with those fishing hooks while you're out looking for food to eat? That'd be, you know, that would be a danger we sure wouldn't want to encounter. And so, the effects here. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's some examples of what we're talking about. Okay, this is the fishing line, and of course, fish hooks and netting. We do see that. There's another one of our examples, one of our poster sea lions there. That guy's name was Captain Hook. Okay. All of these, we saved them. All of these were stuck in his face and in his body. We got them all out. Yeah. And this is he was an adult when we rescued him. And this was our beautiful Captain Hook. He was ready to go home. So he recovered. Do you have a question?
Do some animals have the fishing lines on them for so long that when we take it off, that it still looks like the fishing line is still there?
Yeah, it leaves a scar. That's what you see right here. And with the fishing line, with the netting and those things, and then like we had some with plastic the handles with plastic bags stuck around them, it creates this deep gouge. Sometimes with a thin fishing line, the skin starts to grow over it, and it's still in there, and will still eventually strangle them and hurt them. But, so when we remove it, that's what you see, that it was underneath the skin. And so, yeah, and so it just has to kind of heal from the inside. So we keep them here long enough for it to start to heal from the inside. We give them antibiotics and get it on the road to healing, and then it does scar, and creates a permanent scar. Okay, this is an example, you know, of a whale that's entangled in marine debris. Now this shows a diver. We don't do that. We do it from boats usually. So effects, marine animal injuries, and death again. And oftentimes when the animals get caught in those nets, the fishermen don't mean to catch like a sea turtle or a sea lion or a dolphin. It's called bycatch, and they just inadvertently wind up being killed along with the animals that they're going to catch. Oftentimes they drown before they can be removed out of the water. So, what can we do? One biggie is biodegradable seafood. Have you seen these? These are put out. They were created after a great deal of research. What's in here? Well, we have them downstairs. I will show them to you. They are seafood guides for what is safe These are called Seafood Watch. The research was originally done by the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and you just fold these up. Now, if you guys can all have one of these to take with you, you fold these up and you keep them in your purse or whatever. And so when you go to a restaurant or when you go to buy fish, it tells you which ones are, being fished in a sustainable way so they're not depleting the population, and which ones are the safe, environmentally safe ones to eat, which ones are good alternatives, and which ones to absolutely avoid. So that's one thing you can do. And, if you see something that needs to be changed and done differently, the power of the pen, writing letters to your representatives and to the lawmakers, the law keepers, and to let them know how you feel, because they listen. Okay, because they listen, okay, and because they want to make you happy because you vote for them. And tell others about this, educate others, okay? All right, next we're going to talk about how important it is to keep a safe distance from these animals. As the girls left the fishermen, they reached a lookout peak, and they stopped for a moment, and they looked down at a secluded sandy beach, and there they saw about 10 mother Pacific harbor seals with their new pups. They watched for a while, admiring them from a distance, and that's the Hawaii beach. Some of you have been there before. They watched them from a distance, and suddenly a large group of people swarmed around the resting mothers and the pups. Some of the mothers and pups frantically scurried into the water as other people took selfies and pictures. The people were way too close to the seals. One of the girls asked for the assistance of a nearby police officer to go down to the beach and to alert the large group of people about the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which says that you cannot touch or harass these animals or disturb them, and that you're supposed to try to stay about 100 yards away from them. So she agreed with the girls that it was not only common sense not to bother resting and nursing marine mammals, but it is illegal, and she thanked the girls for letting her know. One of the girls told a story about a whale watching trip and how some of the watchers were trying to get closer to a mother whale and her calf. They said that another captain got so close they could touch the whales, but the captain of this boat would not steer closer. He explained how dangerous it could be for them and how it could put a lot of stress on the mother whale and her calf. He explained how important it is to just keep your eye and just enjoy looking at them, or use binoculars, okay? But don't get too close to them, okay? All right, so who has number 5? We're gonna dump some little miniature cameras into the water. Somebody dropped their cameras. Yeah. Okay. So there's, oh boy, look at this water. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, you left the camera. Very good. Thank you. Okay. So we're starting to see that change. And again, effects, stress and separation between mothers and pups. What can you do? Stay at least 100 yards away, admire with binoculars, and then as always, try to share this information with other people. Okay. Next is trash along the trails. The girls looked up the canyon to a parking lot where their car was parked. All along the trail's edge was hikers' trash. Then the girls saw that all around them the beautiful blooming sage grasses were choking from a huge accumulation of more hikers' trash. Immediately, they all began picking it up. As they did, they called out the types of trash they were finding. Cigarette butts, of course, make sure you have gloves on before you cigarette butts, and plastic forks and sandwich bags and water bottles and candy wrappers. So the girls spent an extra hour on their walk to the car, picking up all the trash along the way. And afterwards, they felt really good about what they had done. Right as they got to the parking lot, there was one plastic grocery bag hanging in the brush. The girls stopped and remembered that bag that got away from them at the beach. And so they all raced to grab it before the wind could take this one way too. So, are you guys number 6? There you go. So, this represents those different kinds of trash. Just kind of, you can see the different colors. Those candy sprinkles represent all the different types of trash that you can find along the trails. Very good. So effects. Okay. Making animals sick or entangled in trash, both in the water and on the land. Okay. It can affect all animals. What can we do? Oh, there we go again. Pick up the trash. And lobby for more trash cleanup, and like you were saying, maybe a lobby for more trash containers. If there's a spot that's always overflowing with trash, they either need to pick it up sooner and dump it sooner, or they need to get more trash containers out there, don't they? Yep. Okay, and again, there's many more other ideas. And if this is one that you think is a topic you'd like to do your PSA on, so keep that in mind as we're going along here. Okay, so the next we're going to do is chemical fertilizers and pesticides in the garden. After tossing and securing all the hiker trash, trail trash in the nearby trash can, the girls jumped into their parents' electric car and drove away. Further down the road, they dropped one of the girls off at her mom's home. The house was surrounded by beautiful flower gardens. Her mother used to use chemical bug sprays to keep the bugs from eating all the flowers, and chemical fertilizers to keep the growth beautiful. The daughter learned that these chemicals were seeping into the ground and into the rivers that ran next to their home. And the rivers ran right into the ocean, carrying all those toxic chemicals into the water. So scientists were discovering that some marine animals were having a harder time having babies because of the chemicals that they had absorbed in their bodies. The daughter researched natural garden products that her mother uses now, and the garden is just as beautiful as ever. So who has number 7? Chemical fertilizer. This comes out kind of slow, so sort of, I think you have to pressure push it, doesn't twist. Okay. And gooey. Oh boy. Look at those poor animals buried in all that goop. But right now, we're pretending like it's chemical fertilizer, okay? Huh? It's chemical fertilizer, chemical pesticide. Put your pretend skills back on. I can tell you what it is after. Oh, you know what? When you get the paper, you'll see what it is. Okay, that's good. You don't have to get every drop. Can you get the lid back on? Careful, don't get it on your clothes.
Sorry,
Okay, so effects. Okay, chemical bug repellents and fertilizers increase the nitrogen in the ecosystem of the water, which causes algae growth, depleting oxygen. And you know, those are all fish there that have died from chemical, from toxic poisoning. But as you girls are getting older, and if you're ever interested in looking this up, this is really, really affecting our marine mammals because they're at the top of the food chain. So all this is accumulating in their body fat. And like it said in the script here, it does affect the babies. Many times they're first born, don't survive because of all the chemicals. And so this is a real issue that's happening. And so if we used organic fertilizers and organic types of pesticides, which of course the best might be ladybugs and praying mantises, to get them into the garden. But be aware of what type of products are being used. And if we plant drought-resistant plants, then we won't need as much water, so there won't be as much water draining into the environment is another thing. And again, as always, to tell others about this. And like I said, there's more in here. This is a topic that piques your interest in all, okay? Okay, so the next one is chemicals on the farm. Another one of the girls remembered when visiting her grandparents on their citrus farm that they used chemical pesticides to control the insects on their trees and chemical fertilizers to increase production. And after learning how those chemicals not only ended up in the ocean, but also in our bodies from eating the fruit, her grandparents switched over to organic farming for the health of their family and the planet. And she reminded the other girls that from all that chemical fertilizer ending up in the ocean, there were algae blooms, which were toxic to living things, and fish were eating that and making them sick. And sometimes that's one of the crises that we have here from toxic algae blooms. It's a very difficult, sad thing that happens sometimes as a result of this, and we do see that here too. So this is a picture of a red tide. This showed some of the coastal area. Last year, we had a really severe outbreak, and it affected our pregnant female sea lions, and so many of them came with severe nervous disorders, and it was fatal for most of them. And it's I don't want to make you all too sad, but, you know, it's real. This is real stuff, and this is some of the stuff that we see. When we talk about this, I don't know how many of you are familiar yet with the term of bioaccumulation. Have you heard that term before? Good. Yeah, so basically, you know, the idea is per kilogram of fat, you know, all these pesticides stay in the fat tissue in the animal. So when a large animal eats a smaller animal, those chemicals stay in that animal's body. And so it builds up. So as it goes up the food chain, the amount of, see, these numbers represent the PCB concentration in milligrams per liter of these animals. So as they move up the food chain, the concentration per every, you know, milliliter in that animal increases tremendously from, you know, from what, 5,000 to 160 particles per, you know, so it's very accumulative, so it really affects the top of the food chain much more so than the bottom of the food chain, which, just another little side point, you know, we talk, if you want this, we can shut it up. Yeah, which when we talk about how we're always talking about how we rescue these animals, right? Well, these animals come to us sometimes as the first indicators of problems going on out in the ocean. So it's a two-way street. They're teaching us about some of the problems, and they are sometimes the first red flags, the first warning signs that let us know that there's a problem going on out there. So we help them, but they help us too to learn more about our ocean and our planet all the time. Goes both ways. Okay, so effects of chemicals on the farm. This is creating dead zones in the ocean, which is causing animals to get sick. And again, what we can do, buy and eat organic fruits and vegetables. This really, you know, does make a difference. And start your own organic garden. Those are just a couple of ideas. And again, there's many more ideas in here. Okay, the next one, we're getting close to the end, is farm animal waste. Another one of the girls remembered that her grandfather, who was a horse rancher not far from the citrus ranch, the horse pasture was on a big grassy hill near a river, and when it rained, all the horse manure would wash into the river, ending up in the ocean. The beautiful blue ocean was turning brown, and for a school prize, she helped set up a manure composting system for the ranch, and she won first prize. Anybody here compost? Oh, there's something you could try. Yeah. You just get a composting bin and you just put plant material in it, and it's amazing. We compost at home. It's amazing as it starts working how quickly it breaks down so that you can't even recognize what you put in there, and it turns into a nice rich mulch to add to your gardens or to your yard. And once it starts working, it's a very efficient way to take all of your plant waste material. And so she did that. And so by turning all that, adding that horse manure, because horse manure is, because they just eat plants, so it has just the elements that come from plants in it. So it's a safe thing to compost. So they're selling horse food. Okay, so effects. Animal waste encourages algae growth, can carry unhealthy pathogens, which are bacteria, things like that, into the ocean. And what can you do? Learn about composting and inform others, okay? Okay, next, we're going to talk about dog poop, okay? Or dog waste, dog feces. One of the girls mentioned that she walks her dog twice a day. She used to think that the dog poop would just break down and soak it back into the ground, so she didn't even pick it up. Then she learned that there are many other people, especially here in Southern California, with dogs, doing the same thing. And there is, even though poop is a natural product, or feces is a natural product, dog feces has such concentrated bacteria in it, and if the dogs are getting any type of medicine, that medication is also in the leftover from that is also in the dog feces. And the scientists are actually detecting effects from the waste from dog poop out in the coastal waters. And you know, I don't think it's something we really think about, but it really does have an impact on our coastal waters and on our environment. So there's a little image to stick in your mind about that. And, oh, let's go back here for just a second. Okay, who has number 10? You're our official doo-doo spreader today, so.
You skipped 9.
Did I skip 9?
Yeah.
And 8.
I thought I
All
missed
in.
it. Okay, we'll go back.
I'm still 8.
You're 8, you're you 8 and 10?
Yeah.
Okay, I am so sorry, I got carried away here, I guess, so okie dokie. All right, let's go back. And so 8 represented chemicals on the farm. So go ahead and, there we go. Thank you guys for telling me. Appreciate it. So there we go, so that represented chemicals on the farm. And then 9 represented the farm animal waste. Yep, I went right past those, didn't I? Okay. This is another gooey one. Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, now we're caught up, right? Okay, so now we can do the dog feces, the dog waste. Okay. All right, okay, 2 more to go. So next we have, let's go through the effects. Spreading disease into the ocean, and what we can do with, because of dog waste, of course, is pick up your dog poop. When you go to buy the bags for picking them up, look at the label and what they're made out of. Many now are selling the poop bags that are part plastic and they are part cornstarch-based products. And so you can buy dog poop bags that aren't all as much plastic. So I was happy to see that it's actually a Target. So, okay, so harsh cleaning chemicals. Another girl mentioned car wash with fundraisers, and they had seen which used cleaning chemicals that washed out onto the pavement and down into the storm drains and into the ocean. Another girl in the group shared her story of fundraising car wash in which she used a combination of natural, plant-based, biodegradable soaps and baking soda and vinegar and lemon juice to wash the cars. And in the end, her fundraiser didn't harm the ocean or its marine life, and she raised a lot of money for the Pacific Marine Center. Okie dokie, so who has number 11? So this represents harsh cleaning chemicals going into the water. Very good. So the effects of that are making animals again and the ocean sick. And what can we do? Use natural cleaning products rather than harsh cleaning chemicals whenever we can, especially for outdoors. Practice water conservation, and again, share this with others. Okay, and last but not least, acid rain. As they continued down the coast highway, the girls got caught in heavy traffic. They talked about how they were in an electric car and that it was using, it was eco-friendly energy with 0 emissions. They talked about how most cars on the road burn gas to make them run. And the gas emissions of sulfur and nitrogen oxide, also from factories and power stations and homes, goes into the air, and once it goes up into the atmosphere, of course, when it combines with the water molecules that have evaporated and gone up into created these clouds, it sticks to those water molecules, and as they become heavier and we finally get the precipitation of the rain, it does carry those harmful chemicals back into the ground and back into the water, making the water what we call very acidic. And this again is causing kill-offs in the water and in our forests, depending on where the water actually falls down. When you hear about our coral reefs dying, this, along with changes in ocean temperature, are one of the main reasons. Did anybody ever do that science experiment where you put an egg in vinegar and it gets rubbery after a while, or a fish bone, or a chicken bone and it gets rubbery? That's because it's full of calcium. That's what makes it stiff. And acids break down that calcium. And so that's what coral is made out of. That's the main ingredient that the little creatures use to make it. And so this high acidity is breaking down that calcium, and that's of course what's in the shells of animals too. And so this is causing the killing off of our reefs right now. So another issue, who has number 12? Last but not least. We're just adding that to that ocean water. All right, so effects again, ocean acidification, what we can do, walk and ride your bike and carpool when you can, try to use less energy, bless you, teach others about this, and so this all leads to the different types of things that we can do. So there's a image made out of plastic bottles. And so there is all the different issues that we addressed today, and so, oops, I was going to try a little more gradual. So, looking, let's have the waves and the little ocean current go here. Okay, so who would like to swim in this? No? Obviously not. And obviously this is just a dramatic representation of what we're talking about. But, you know, kind of hopefully sticks in your head a little bit about how each one of these different things has its own effect. So now are we okay to have a couple extra minutes? Do they have
That'd be great, because that's the part I'd really want to
Yeah, I
as
know.
our PSA. So,
yeah,
yes,
so,
we have time.
Oh,
We have
good,
time.
good. Okay, so what we're going to head now to do now is I'll let you girls decide your two groups. Try to make 4 and 5. 4 and 5. Are you all okay with doing that, or okay? And does anybody have any ideas already? Any of these topics that they're thinking might be something that would be a good topic for a public service announcement?
Participation, girls, participation.
Litter, effects from boats, trash on the beach, fishing gear, keep your distance, trash along the trails, chemical fertilizer, or chemicals on the farm animal waste, dog waste, harsh cleaning chemicals, or acid rain. What do you think?
I think maybe keeping distance, because like you said earlier, it could have been like that one of the visitors came too close and scared off the mom. So like keeping your distance, especially like today, like even yourself, like you don't want people getting too close to you. So you kind of
You know, the more public service, the more we can educate the public on how important that is, the better it'll be for the environment and all the animals. It's very important. Yes.
I think chemicals in the farm, because they could be using more pesticides and stuff, that could hurt the animals, and it's bad for our dogs too, it's bad for us.
You could probably take chemicals on the farm and combine that with, buying organic maybe, because it all kind of goes together. Yeah. So if people buy organic, that's going to support organic farmers, isn't it? Yeah, so that's all kind of goes together. Very cool. I think some people just don't realize, when they go to the store, they just go, the organic's more expensive. Which it always isn't necessarily more expensive. But I think if people realize how good it is for their bodies.
My mom always gets it.
I think 90% of the time, this is all about education, isn't it? It's all about people just becoming more aware. And who are the ones that can go out there and educate the public? Yeah. All right, very cool. All right, any other thoughts on that? Yes.
I think just like the littering or just all the trash.
Uh-huh.
2 seconds to fix something.
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds to pick it up. And maybe say in there, storm drains are not trash receptacles. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and someone didn't even put like the bottle in the trash. They put it on top of the trash. Like, seriously, I put it in the trash.
Good for you.
It was right there. They didn't even have the decency to put it in and put it on top.
Yes, it wouldn't have taken any more time to put it in rather than on top, huh? Not because they had to balance it on top. It would have been easier to put it in, huh? And you know what, just one little point I just want to make, is you guys, you ladies need to remember, when you do something like that, you never know who's watching you. And so it's a lot, sometimes it's a lot more powerful than you might think. Because especially little kids are looking up to you, and they see you doing it, and they're going, oh, that's a pretty cool thing to do. And you know what else? When adults see young people doing something they know they should have done, it has an impact on them too. So don't ever think that any of these things are a little deal. They're really great that you do it. Yeah.
One time we went to the store. I don't really remember, but someone at the store, I think it was the person that worked there, they told us that these teenagers, they came and they just bought all these balloons because they had like kids using them. They bought all the balloons, took them outside and purposely just let them go. And then,
Yeah, there's a lot of education that still needs to be done, huh? Yeah, okay, all right, very good. Well, I want us to get, I'm going to give you time to do this now. And so what is going to happen is that you are, we have some props, we have some pretend stuffed sea lions out there. You were thinking, I don't see why we couldn't, if you wanted to go outside, you could film it outside, if you wanted to mirror in the background.
Will they just do a one altogether or break up into two?
We're going to do
groups?
two.
Do
We're gonna
two.
Two separate ones.
Okay, so what are the two you guys gotta figure out two topics and separate in groups.
Get in your groups. Or, why don't you help them with this part,
Okay,
since
so,
you know.
you guys talked about 3 or 4 different ones. So who wants one? Emily, what did you pick out? You picked out distance. Anybody who wants to do distance, we're gonna do by voting.